Alright, so alrighty, a little late getting on board tonight. Turns out when you do a edit on a video, and the video is 35 minutes long, the exporting the video into the new format takes 3 hours. So yeah, I forgot about that end of the bargain. So I do have the video going up tonight that I guess I'll do after this. I don't want to try to run it at the same time because I don't think it'll handle the load right. It'll probably choke on that. I'm also sort of getting ready to do a. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. I'm trying to put together a backup tripod, so I can review my main tripod as one of the products that I review on my channel. So I have a backup tripod. The trick to that is, it's one of these little guys here with the plate that the clip for the thing on the bottom of the tripod goes to, or the bottom of the camera. You do a little plate that's got this little trigger to pop things into. I got it at a thrift store. It didn't come with the plate, of course, so I have no plate for it. So I have no means to attach it, except there is an attachment for my knockoff GoPro that we were talking about last night. That lets me tip this whole plate down, so the camera would be pointing towards the ground, but the handle used to tighten a piece of it is sticking. I wouldn't call it a 90-degree angle. I'd call it more like an 80-degree angle. But I have a clamp for the GoPro knockoff that has a tripod mount on the. It's actually two pieces. This is the clamp here, and this is it intermeshes with the bottoms of so many of the other attachments, and this gives me a little tripod piece that clips into the bottom of this, which I think honestly what I'm probably going to end up doing is I'm going to go to the makerspace and see if I could print off a plate for that, because that to me seems to make more sense as to what I'll be able to do with this once I get it in a reasonable state of functionality. I have another more involved tripod that again has one of those plates of a different size, and I should be able to print off two of those plates relatively easily. I just haven't done it yet, and so I'm sort of like, well, I could do a review of my tripod that I usually use, my small pocket one, relatively easily. I just need to do a sort of a mock-up stand for this round. That's sort of at a weird angle. I don't know how we got that going there, but that ought to do it to pull that off tonight. So what I'm working on right now is I just finished the edit on the movie for the month. I did the recording of the first half of the board game, which I can record the second half, and then the tripod for the product. I have a taste test online on the computer already that I can just do a quick edit and post that one up to go in sequence. I may do a couple pieces of music this time around that I would. I alternate art and music. I'm not sure why I chose to do it that way, but I did that at one point. I feel like arbitrarily, like every week, every month, switching from one to the other, art or music, feels like it's a hardline restriction. But by the same token, like they are sort of like one's an auditory music format and the other one's a visual format, and they're both art forms, which I think makes a certain amount of sense. I think as I go forward in the future, I may opt not to alternate music and art, and the arts, and because I don't. I mean, I have a fair number of music albums that I can review, but I'm not a musical connoisseur. Whereas, like visual arts, I do tend to favor a lot of. But I mean, we'll see. And then I have the video game in line that I can do, and that should get me through my main 7 categories of content. And I will add at the end of the month the new health and well-being, the reboot of the health and well-being content discussion. And I hope that if I do each of those for the rest of the month, that should get me through till the end of the month, and then I will have a little time off before I start up on like next month's content. Because next month I was looking at it and I was sort of like looking at the schedule. No, well, actually, I might be able to start the next month right away. So if I do the movie tonight, Oregon Trail board game tomorrow, the tripod for Friday, taste test with Frank on Saturday, and then it's some music on Sunday, the video game on Monday, and then the new health and well-being category on Tuesday. That would get me all the way to the end of the month. Next month, it starts on a Wednesday. And because there are 8 categories of content, if I do a Tuesday, Thursday schedule for 2 per week, so that would be the 7th, the 9th, the 14th, the 16th, the 21st, the 23rd, the 28th, and the 30th, that would be the whole month. That would mean that I don't do anything for Thursday the 2nd. But every other Tuesday and Thursday, it would be scheduled and done correctly. And then what I do for my daily videos is the daily project weeks would be, like right now we're on product development week. And then, let's see, the next week would be sort of like a finishing week where I don't do anything from the 28th to the 4th. Nothing new, just continue to work on what I've already started. And then on the 5th would be a cooking show. And then on the 12th would be where I work on trying to create some music. And then the 19th would be I create another video game. And then the 26th through the 1st of June would be a week of health and well-being content. And then after that, I feel like, let's see, so fiction writing, video creation, another tabletop game, another product. By the end of June, I'll be working on another product. And then the first week of July will be food related. And I think what I was thinking for that one is, since I'll be traveling, I could do taste testing while I'm out traveling. And then art or music while I'm out traveling. Probably bring a sketch pad or something. And then video game creation. I think I was working on doing the YouTube role-playing game style video for July. And then after that would be a health and well-being. And that may be how to exercise or what to eat while traveling kind of stuff. And then I feel like a week off for the 28th through the 3rd. And then the 4th to the 11th would be another writing while I'm traveling still. And let's see, how long would I be traveling? So let's see, I would be traveling late June through the 10th of July to get to VidCon. And then from VidCon to Alaska, it's probably going to take me up at least until the 18th or the 20th. And then from Alaska, so like say the 20th, all across Canada, it's 13 provinces, 2 days each. That's 26. And a couple days, let's see, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So about 30 as I dip into some of the northern states twice. So a month from the 20th of July would get me to roughly the 20th of August. So I figure maybe the 24th. And so what I need to do for August is plan for writing, video creation, and another tabletop game design, and possibly the start of a new product. And that would get me all the way through August. So that's sort of what I'm going to do for all of this channel's content while I'm out. And I'm trying to make sure I plan it out appropriately so that I can get that taken care of and not miss much of anything. I've got the books, movies, and games that I need to pre-record and edit before I leave lined up. So I should be able to handle that portion of it. The next part of my plan is to figure out the weekly tinkering projects that I want to do for Roving Jack and the learning projects or vloggy style videos for while I'm traveling and record those ahead of time. So I need to do about 2 recordings of videos a week for that whole time that I'll be gone while I'm still here. So that's all of July, 1 week in June. So that's 5, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9. So I need to do about 18 individual videos for the Roving Jack channel, record and then edit those prepared to go. And I need to do I need to do 18, 20 weeks worth of Makerspace videos to edit between now and then. Seems to like it. Well, I mean, I've got about 8 weeks to do it. So if I do a couple a day, I should reasonably be able to do it. It's a bit of a workload. But I like the possibility of actually getting ahead enough that it makes it easier to do what I need to do. Getting it done, it's a little tricky, so I might be a little slower in some of the weekly projects that I'm working on. I mean, dare I take the week off? Well, I don't know about that. I was going to say, dare I take a week off or a month off and take all of May off for weekly projects? But I think that actually leaves me off in a point where when I'm traveling, I won't be able to do anything. And I'd rather not do it that way. I will probably end up doing shorter videos while I'm traveling, just because live streaming while I'm traveling probably isn't going to be as easy as it should be. Got to figure out how I'm going to make that happen while I'm traveling too. Like where I could connect with the Wi-Fi. I might pre-record those videos for when I'm traveling and upload them before I even head out. I don't like the idea of that because that leaves me with an additional work of getting 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 10 weeks of videos to do beforehand. And I could do them as premieres and do the chats on the side, sort of like I did with the taste test mukbang videos. I suppose that's one way of being present, to do that on a regular basis. It's maybe not the wrong way to do it, because I like to be present and discussing the things I'm working on. And being able to chat on the side. I mean, I guess that if I set it up, upload them, and keep them on private, and then the day of, set them up as premieres, and then participate live in the chat on the side. That's a fair compromise for 6 to 8 weeks of while I'm traveling. If I do any live streaming while I'm traveling, I don't imagine I'll have access to sufficiently powerful Wi-Fi that I'll be able to live stream while I'm there or upload huge videos. That's the trick. Like, I don't know that I could stream 1080p video. Like, I might be able to get away with like a 450 video resolution. That super grainy, not good quality video that you sometimes see. Like, I could probably get away with that, but I can't guarantee it, and it's not something I want to experiment while I'm traveling with. And I don't think I could get a mobile hotspot that I wouldn't use up the data minutes on within a week. So, well, yeah, like, I guess just communicating while traveling is just going to be hugely difficult. And so if I can do it beforehand, I'll record a bunch of stuff before I go, I guess. That's a lot of projects to get done. That's a workload right there, is what that is. And I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to make the trip through Canada work right now. I have to figure that part out in the next few days. To organize some of that to make it happen. All right, so that's sort of where I got today with some of my stuff. I did play around with, I got to thinking, like, I went to Walmart and I went into the craft section and I found a couple bolts of cloth that's like $1.49 for a yard. It's horribly cheap garbage. And I looked at a couple of others, and like I could get some plain cotton fabric that I could stitch and do stuff. And I think per yard, I think it's like a yard by a yard. So if I got a square of that material that was 3 feet by 3 feet, it would cost me about $2.49. And I found myself wondering, like, if I went to a thrift shop and got myself a set of sheets for a king size or a queen size bed, I think I'm getting more than a yard by a yard. And I would almost guarantee you that the price would be about $3 to $5. So price-wise, material-wise, that may actually be cheaper to do in the long run. I'm not sure. I have to go look and see what thrift shops have for like sheets and stuff. But I also got to thinking, like, I'm pretty sure I could do, like, there are ways to take the plastic grocery bags and make sheets out of them that you can stitch together and make a plastic grocery bag, like a handled tote bag. And like I got a bunch of those grocery bags. I could probably do something like that if I really wanted to. And I may do that as just a first material, because it will be waterproof. And it will be sturdy enough to handle what I put into it. My only concern with that is, I mean, it is just cheap plastic. Under repetitive working, there may be tears or wear through that fabric could handle better. And it may be a little more stiff in certain areas than fabric would be. But on the plus side, for a lot of those stuff, you can seal the edges with heat. So you don't have to stitch it. You don't have to use a sewing machine. You can just take an iron and run some heat along an edge and do it. So I'll tinker around with that idea maybe, but I think in the long run, I still want to take this into the realm of fabric. I'm thinking something maybe like a canvas or a duck cloth. But I'm not sure yet. One of the other things that I was playing around with in my head was I have some rolls of duct tape, and I've seen people make all sorts of interesting things out of duct tape. I got to think, like, that might not be a bad idea to try that. I might be able to make that work, make a duct tape backpack. It'd be waterproof. But so I'm debating some of the materials for it. I think I've got the outline of the compartments worked out in a way that makes sense. So I was actually playing around with the design element earlier today, where I was doing basically an S shape, where the back pocket, the horizontal lower half of the back pocket would be like you make a loop and fuse along the top of that loop, and then you loop the top around again for the next set of pockets, and you fuse along the bottom, and then you loop across the top one more time for the pocket at the front of the lower portion, and you fuse that at the top, and then you bring around the top piece over the top and fuse that down at the front, and then you just put zippers on the sides. And in that way, like a single piece of fabric with, I mean, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 points overlapping in the middle, maybe even just 3 in the middle. That might make a little bit more sense. And then that one piece up in the front, no, the one in the front, the way I keep playing with that one. Okay, so what I may end up doing is 3 overlaps in the middle, goes up, forms the back of the top portion, then comes back all the way down to the bottom of the front. And at that point, I'm going to decide whether or not that front pocket in the middle that I was debating whether or not I wanted to split in the middle, whether or not I also cut that off from the top half, or if it's a whole one large, huge pocket that goes down the whole front of it. I think I'll probably split it, because if I do it the way that I want to design the rest of the pockets, there's one horizontal across the middle of the back, and then there's 2 angled in, and then 2 angled this way, and then that front one in the front there that would sort of V up, meet at the top, and then go wider enough to be the middle of the back. So I think it makes more sense to make that divide again. It's going to be an interesting looking pack. It might be thin, but hold a fair amount. And then I'll have to see how the positioning of that long back pocket works with regard to removing the laptop. I keep thinking that I'm going to make it like a zipper at the top back here, but I don't think that makes sense, especially with the removal on the side. I'll probably do a side along the top half, but that means like bringing the whole bag around in a way that you're essentially accessing the whole side of the bag while still holding it on a strap. So I think at this point it's really just putting together a test fit of the pieces and tweaking any adjustments I have to make along the way. Like there's also the possibility of just connecting the upper and the lower back into one really long pocket. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that approach though. Let's see if I can pull up the image for myself here just as reference. Yeah, I might be doing just a few too many things for this laptop right now. Nope, not bog bag. Nope. Everyday carry. What was I calling it? Carry. Oh no! See, I gotta pay attention to what I title things. Okay, there we go. Peak Design backpack. Okay, so looking at that, it's gonna pull it open. It's probably gonna cause maybe a little glitchiness as I'm doing this. Come on. It's going to do this to me. What was that? Hot summer proof. Not if it's plastic. Not if like I do think it would be fun to make one out of plastic, just so like you can make it out of absolutely nothing, complete garbage. But I feel like that would probably be all right in a car because high density polyethylene manages temperatures pretty well. So the design format that I'm going for right now tends to suggest that the placement of the lower part of the strap that goes under your arm doesn't really want you to reach into the upper part of the back with the bottom part of the back at the same time, because that zipper is going to have to travel underneath that strap in some way. And I don't know that that's the best design for that. Maybe that would work. As you're slinging it around and you've got the strap like this, you're accessing from the inside. That may work. That may be okay. I might be overcomplicating my thoughts here. So that may be viable. I mean, it does decrease the number of pockets a little bit, but it increases the volume that can be held in the main back pocket. Think about that one just a little bit. It really comes down to me figuring out, and that's the thing is, like, right now I don't go anywhere with a lot of stuff other than when I'm traveling. And this would enable me to take more stuff with me to do things when I'm out at like the makerspace and stuff. But I don't know how much of that is really what I'm going to be doing with the bag. And how much of that is what I think I'll be doing with the bag, which is an important distinction to make. Duct tape. The duct tape, yeah. Now the duct tape, my understanding, if I remember correctly from making duct tape wallets and stuff like that, is really what you're doing is you're making a paper core, and you're sticking the flexible tape onto it, and you're essentially making a fake leather. Now, the gumminess of a duct tape, I mean, if you get it wet and you constantly expose it to temperatures over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, it might see some wear. But honestly, like, my thought on that is, like, I'm not going to be leaving my laptop and my external hard drive and my audio recorder in wet, hot environments anyway. And I mean, this isn't a hiking backpack either, so I'm not likely to spend a huge amount of time trekking up a mountain trail with this stuff on me, and I'm not going to do that regularly. If I go for a small hike with it, maybe, but even then, it's not really meant for doing that kind of stuff. A hiking pack or a hot car pack, that's something have to be designed a little bit differently anyway. But yeah, I mean, point taken. Like, keep in mind the limitations of the materials you use. Like, I mean, honestly, if I really wanted to do a quick knockoff attempt, I would go take the shower curtain down, get out the iron and a couple pieces of parchment paper, and I could draw out the lines of where I want the seams to be, run the iron over those pieces, and I could probably do that. You know, it's not a bad idea, honestly. It's not a bad idea. I could go down to the dollar store and buy a $1 shower curtain and it would cost me $1. And out of the end of this, I would have a huge piece of vinyl material that I could heat weld the seams like that with some parchment paper and a household iron and do a proof of concept that handles like a fabric. It's not quite like a fabric, but it's a waterproof material that I could probably get away with using. And as a means of testing out the shape and positions of pockets and the openings for them, that's actually not a bad idea. It's sort of a stupid joke, but it's not a bad idea, honestly. I may give that a try tomorrow. Go get a cheap shower curtain from the dollar store. A couple cheap shower curtains if I really want to. And test run making a vinyl backpack. It would be weatherproof. If I somehow included like a cheesecloth or some other thin fibrous textile to it that would add strength to it between the layers of shower curtain, sort of like a like rebar and cement reinforces it. Yeah, I mean, I could probably pull that off. It's not a bad idea. That's really not a bad idea. I don't know what I would do for the zippers, though. I might have to stitch the zippers in. Or, well, no. It seems like cheating. My brain says, like, I could possibly get, like, the self-adhesive Velcro. Just get a couple Velcro strips and put them along the top and use those instead of zippers. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not a fan of Velcro openings. I could probably do a snap or two. Thinking about the way I've got these things to close, I was going to say, like, could I do lacings or buckles? But I don't know that I could do a buckle, because they're meant to be sort of like a you have a flat surface with a zipper in the middle of it, and I may have to do a little bit of an overlap to make that work, but I don't know like the best arrangement for doing any straps or buckles on that would make a lot of sense. Whereas pretty sure I can get thin, fine strips of Velcro to work, or a couple snaps. I could even stitch zippers into that, to be honest. It's not ideal for some of it, because if like putting a zipper into some of those locations, you sort of want to be able to have the zipper like a hidden zipper so that it's not exposed to water getting into that seam that you put in there. I feel like it's not really like, even for a finished product, that's maybe not a bad idea. The only concern I would have that way is the linings of the pockets and the back that is against my back, basically the interior surface of the bag. I may want to be a non-plastic material so that it breathes a little bit better and you don't have essentially a Ziploc bag. that everything goes into. Because, I mean, it's not a bad idea for a Ziploc bag for complete waterproofing. My concern with the Ziploc bag is any amount of moisture that you expose to the bag gets trapped inside the bag at that point. And the bag doesn't dry out unless you make the effort to expose those or wipe them out. And there will always be a little bit of sense of moisture in there. And if this is a bag I'm carrying around electronics in, I don't want to accumulate moisture in them. So having the interior pocket portions of it be some form of fabric for the finished product, I would favor that. But for a test run, just doing the shower curtain thing, maybe not a bad way to go. Kind of like it as an idea. Definitely for prototyping, that's pretty fast and easy. I got the parchment paper, I got the iron. A $1 shower curtain would get me there. It's not a bad way to do it. Certainly easier than playing around with the paper and tape that I've been doing. Because paper doesn't flex in the right ways. It doesn't give you the flexibility of a material like a vinyl or a cloth. And actually, for the finished version of one, I could find some cheap cloth like that garbage stuff that was up at Walmart. It's very porous and very, like, I don't imagine it would stand up to wear and tear well. But if I took a $1 shower curtain and put some parchment paper over that and had that and heated it into the fibers of that cloth, I could do a waterproofed vinyl reinforced cloth, again, like a fake leather. And that would probably wear pretty well for a little while. Interesting idea. Oh, we're at 42 minutes. We got a few more minutes left for the brainstorming and playing around with the product idea, and then I'm gonna try to put a lot of work in tonight to finish up 2 more videos before I go to bed. And I think tomorrow I'm gonna try to go down and, well, no. Tomorrow I may go work on some more projects. I was gonna go see Shazam, and later in the next week or so, maybe go down and see the Avengers Endgame during the week. But I might just put, like, this week is videos and editing and projects week. Next week is a week where I'll have, I'll have more projects to be working on and finishing, but I will not be doing as much new content. So I may end up going to see the Avengers Endgame and Shazam on the same day. Yeah, well, I have gotten my shower curtains from the dollar store. It's the Dollar Tree in the past. They're very flimsy vinyl. And I have made pouches to carry things that would be waterproof in them by just cutting a rectangle and folding the bottom up to about 5/6 of the way up, and then the top 2/6 down, so there's an overlap, and then you weld along the edges with an iron, and you put parchment paper over it. You weld along the edges with an iron, and it makes like a 1-inch wide strip of welded vinyl. And then you fold those in half and then roll them in a little bit more, and you run over with the iron and the parchment paper again, and you get a very thick, hardy seam along the edge of that. And I've had that hold up with things inside of it traveling, as long as nothing's pointy, nothing with a sharp point on it goes into that. I've had it hold up for several years of keeping a few things in my car and pulling it out every now and then to use. It's It's flimsy. You don't want anything super heavy, and you don't want anything that's likely to have a point that'll puncture or rip the bag. But other than that, it worked really well. Now, if I doubled that up, I have played around with welding that vinyl into double thick and triple thick sheets, and that gets you a material that's a little bit more like a it's a it's almost like a tarp, like a plastic tarp at that point, and it becomes really, really sturdy. And it's a fair bit less flexible. I mean, it's still very flexible compared to most other plastics, but the rigidity on that can make for some difficulties getting it to do certain things. But that may be a benefit where you want some rigidity so that it doesn't, whatever you put into it isn't banging against things that'll tear it or puncture it. Like a triple or quadruple layer thick, you could put pocket knives and scissors in there all you want, and it should be pretty much fine. It'd be as difficult as trying to cut through a plastic tarp for exterior, putting over your barbecue grill kind of stuff. If you put some fabric in between, like if you did a 4-layer vinyl with a piece of like cheesecloth or something between layers 2 and 3, that would be very, very strong. It would be a material you could do a lot with. I don't know that I would want to permanently make a backpack out of that. What? You were thinking for a green screen, like a backdrop, like chroma keying, or whatever color. No loads on a screen except when you pack it away. See, part of what I want to oh, shower curtain for a green screen. If I could find the right color for it, that'd be nice. The trick with doing chroma keying is if you can find a color, like a lot of the color for a shower curtain is going to be white or like an off-white. There might be a way to dye it, but I think what I would, and you can find like the green poster board is, I think 70 to 80 cents a sheet, and that's relatively easily. And all you have to do at that point is get a clear boxing tape and tape the backs of the seams where they meet, and that'll usually work pretty well. I can find a bright green fabric at Walmart for about $2.49 for a yard of it, and it's going to be at least 2 feet wide. No, more than 2 feet. I think it's going to be like 4 feet wide by a yard long, and that's largely enough for what you would potentially do it. Maybe you get 2 yards of it, and that would cover most of the backdrop of this. If I just brought the camera in closer, even I'd get most of that covered. I think I've seen somebody use. They've used a stretchy fabric that they could stretch over a frame and clamp it with hardware clamps. And then they got just like a bright green color, and I have a couple of like bright fluorescent. I have a roll of bright fluorescent pink paper. I have no idea what it was originally meant for. It's one of those. American Science and Surplus has a bunch of stuff sometimes, and you go, "Huh, that's interesting. I'll see what that is," and you purchase it. And years ago, I bought this giant roll of bright fluorescent pink paper, and the roll is like this wide, and you can get a sheet of it that's easily 8 feet long if you really wanted to. And so, like, I've thought about using that. The only concern I have with that one is because it's a bright pink, like, I have some pink tones in my skin. So, if I have to use a chroma key to pull out the pinks, I may get some weird speckling effects on my own face as it tries to pull some of that out. And I do want to, I'm thinking of, and I keep telling myself sometime this week I may go down to my storage unit and pull out a few things for projects. And one of those things would be to pull out my bright pink roll of paper and just see what I could get away with doing with it. Because if I can chroma key with that, then yeah, I've got plenty to do as much as I want with that. And I can do that for a lot of things, like skin. Anything with skin tone may have some pinks in it that may be difficult to do. I don't have a lot of clothing that are going to have a lot of pinks in them, and it's not going to be something that affects like a purple. Like if you take pink and add blue to it, you'll get a purple. Uh, but you're not going to lose your purple coloration or distort it in some way by chroma keying out pink. And so, like, it's better able to select than that. It's got a sense of what is and isn't going to work. So I feel like for most objects, if I do any special effects with like a sword or bananas or a whole range of things, it should work just fine. I imagine the only time you're gonna have a little trouble with anything that's reflective, because you're gonna pick up pink tones on certain areas of reflective surfaces, and um, when you pull those out with chroma keying, it's gonna leave hidden spots of see-through. So, like the whites of my eyes, the reflection you see in the white of my eyes right now, like I don't know if you can see that, but the reflections you see in my eye are picking up the tones of the things in my environment. And so if I have a brightly lit pink screen and the whites of my eyes pick up a reflection of that pink, when I chroma key out the background, it's also going to catch some of that reflection and remove that. And you may not notice it right away, but if you put me on top of a backdrop of bright blue mountaintops and skies, you're going to get these little weird floating blue spots in my eyes where the reflections are. And so it's just paying a little bit of attention to being careful about some of that stuff, and you can get away with it. The pink tones and skin tones, maybe, like, I don't know if it's going to be enough of a similarity to cause some bugginess around it, but I could still do it for like when I talk about doing like the Star Wars reimagined, like a pod racer that's metals, browns, yellows, and blacks. Like there's no part of that I can't use on a bright pink chroma key screen. So, I mean, I can use that as a backdrop for a lot of inanimate objects and non-reflective materials. And so, like, I still use it. I would still use it potentially for some chroma keying. I got to test run it to see how it works with skin tones and stuff. But yeah, the dollar shower curtains are not super high quality. If I were to go with when one of the things for the little box I have over there that I'm planning to potentially use as a audio video recorder. I may see if I can get some cloth in there, because the really cheap version of doing this is you can take a green screen material, a black material, and a white material, and you do a seamless background. So you don't let it come to a sharp angle. You do this curve in the back of it, so it's both the bottom and the back of the booth that you're taking the picture or the video in, and therefore you have this seamless white background or a seamless black background. Or if you light it right, black can look gray. And if you can find a gray poster board, that would be like, I need to see if I can find gray poster board, because a medium gray tone, if you light it right, can look black behind an object, or white behind an object if you light it differently, or a gray behind the object. And if you hit it with colored light, it can give the impression of a medium or a dark blue, a medium or a dark red. So having a medium gray background material is one of the most versatile materials for still photography. I have not experimented a lot with whether or not it works as well for video, but I imagine you can get at least approachably similar results. And then the other thing, like the chroma keying colors of green and blue, if you can get those in a material you can do a seamless back on, you've instantly got, blacks, whites, grays, some different colors, and a chroma keying backdrop you can do in front of still photography and potentially some motion photography. And that's with 3 poster boards if you can get the right colors on them. And I do partly wonder if I get a black poster board and leave it in the sun until it fades, if I could get the right tone of gray. I don't know. I may end up having to see if I can just do a painted poster board. Ooh, I bet you if I took a black poster board and used the matte side and used white chalk, I could make it hit the right tone of gray. That's not a bad idea. It is not what I'm working on this week, but it is not a bad idea. I don't need to invent new projects right now. I'm working on one right now. But yeah, so I've seen a photographer recommend using a velour, I believe is what it's called. It's like a satiny material. And he says if you can find a medium gray and a velour, well, I don't think he's the one who talked about the medium gray being the best color, but he makes a fair number of his backgrounds out of velour because it's a fabric that doesn't wrinkle. So you can literally roll it up and then fold it in half, cram it into a bag, pull it out when you get to your next destination, shake it out and put it up on pins, and it's your colored background again. And if I could find a medium gray velour, I think that would be for backdrops, a really great simple one to play with. And then I think, you ever see those shower curtain rods where you can twist them and they spread out further and they wedge themselves into the walls to hold the shower curtain? If you got one of those, that would be, you could shrink it down, pack it away, double your velour over, wrap it around the pole. Translucent material. For green screening or for making the backpack? They might have a translucent shower curtain at the dollar store. They might even have some of that painter's vinyl that you can put down on your floor. Oh, no, translucent. Velour wouldn't be translucent. Velour it's like a fuzzy fabric. So that's going to be more like you might be talking about vellum, which is it's a semi-translucent paper, which would be vellum, which is let me see if I can spell this right. And velour fabric. Okay, so velour fabric. So like velour fabric is it's something you can make clothing out of or curtains. And part of the reason it was recommended by the photographer was because it's almost like a satin bed sheet, and the fact that it's such a soft and fuzzy material, like the fuzz makes it so you can't see any wrinkles that form in the main part of the fabric, and so it doesn't really wrinkle. And one of the problems with doing chroma keying or backdrops is if there are visible wrinkles in it, it can make it so that whatever image you put on the back has wrinkles in it too. And so being able to pull a fabric out, hang it right up, and not have a single wrinkle in it means there's less prep time and less work. And like with a cotton or a other fabric, if you go hang this up for the image, the backdrop, and there are wrinkles in it, I mean, you may not be able to take that shot the way you need to take it for that particular one. And with velour, just put it up and it's always good. It's always ready to go. And so like I was thinking like getting a nice gray velour where I could play with the tones. The only thing I think about with that maybe having to be careful with is velour tends to have a sheen to it, a slight shininess to it if you hit it with a lot of direct lighting. So you're going to want to favor indirect or soft lighting so that it doesn't give bright spots. But otherwise, I think I'm pretty sure if I did a good search on Amazon for gray velour, I could probably find a good piece of it. And then figuring out how to put together the stands for it. Like I would have to figure out a good stand setup that can break down and pack away small to do a good backdrop. But that's a project maybe for another time. We are at an hour tonight. I will try to do a little more tinkering around on the backpack design. I may go get that shower curtain tomorrow and just give it a go. And then I need to work on some videos tonight, post those up. Tomorrow's Thursday? Man, it feels like a week has already gone by, and it also feels like this is still Monday. So I'm both surprised at how far we are into the week and thinking it shouldn't be that far yet. I also want to see if I can get a project done for another one of the entries into the Instructables contests again. Not that I'll win, but I still want to give it a go at some point. Alrighty, well, I will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you for joining me, and have yourself a good night.